Aww. Aww. Today we're looking at issue 5 of Captain America by J. Michael Straczynski, and now the art duties are being done by Lan Medina. Now, about a week ago, I put this series on my top 10 comics of 2023, and I'll admit that when I made that video, I had not yet read issue 4, which has Jesus Sai's art on the front, but I did not realize is not Jesus Sai's on the interior work. And in that issue, I found out exactly how much weight of the work Jesus Sai's was carrying. Because, man, Straczynski's writing just does not hit as hard when it doesn't have a really good artist there to sell it. And I don't want to bad talk Lan Medina too much because I've seen some really cool artwork from him. And I don't know if it's just a limited time kind of thing, as I assume it usually is, but his work on these last 2 issues of Captain America don't seem like his best work. On issue 5, we don't even have Jesus Sai's on the cover work anymore. We have Torrin Clark, and I like Torrin Clark. I think his style is pretty cool, but it is definitely a downgrade from Jesus Sai's, to me at least. So in issue 5, we continue the present day storyline where Captain America is preparing to fight this guy called the Emissary, who's basically a host to this ancient demon called Asmodee. And Captain America doesn't normally mess with the supernatural stuff, so it's a cool angle, and he's got Doctor Strange helping him. Or more specifically, he's got the spirit of Doctor Strange embodying this weird little doll figurine thing, and that's helping him. And we don't get to see that fight in this issue. We're mostly just building up to it for the next issue, because most of this issue is taken up by this parallel flashback sequence that we've had since issue 1, where Steve Rogers, before he becomes Captain America, is trying to thwart this Nazi plan to blow up like 10,000 people in New York City so that America will think the Nazis are being attacked and then come to the aid of the Nazis. And then because Germany and the United States will be on the same team, they'll be unstoppable. At least that's the plan. So they're going to blow up a ton of people in Madison Square Garden, and he's trying to stop them. And I love World War II period pieces. I love seeing Steve Rogers in action before he was Captain America. The stakes always seem so much clearer in war pieces. I just really enjoy seeing that kind of thing. So you'd think that I'm enjoying this, but I'm not really. And it's because of the art, I think. There are a lot of pages where the expression work is just not very well done. There's not a lot of expression on their faces, and the body language is pretty good, but overall I just don't get much emotion from it. And I don't think the coloring work is helping, and I think it doesn't help that most of the time there's 6 or more panels on a page, so it's a lot of information to squeeze onto a page. But one way or another, the flashback sequences just don't sell me on the time period, and they're just not hitting me very hard. And as far as the modern day stuff goes, the art isn't bad. Like, this is pretty run-of-the-mill for Marvel art nowadays, but it's nothing really special like Jesus Sai's work was. It's just kind of like, yeah, that's comic art. This is definitely a comic. Is it a comic that I'm gonna love forever? No, not really. It almost looks like Medina is changing his style a little bit so it looks a little bit more like Sai's style, but I don't think we're successfully getting back to the same aesthetic that Sai's had, and we're losing a lot of charm in the process. As far as the writing goes, I know that I mentioned in my top 10 video that Captain America is making too many jokes, but that I was also letting it slide because it's Straczynski and I know he's got to make jokes. But by the time we get to the 5th issue, I'm pretty sick of Captain America being the comedy relief. And I also don't love that Doctor Strange is also acting as comedy relief. And I guess you could argue that it's not Doctor Strange, it's a Doctor Strange doll, but I thought that Straczynski established early on that the doll was separate from Strange, but also contained his spirit, so it's like they're the same person, but they're not the same entity. But in this issue, we see Captain America talking to the doll, and then we see Stephen Strange himself replying while he's busy doing something else. So that makes it seem like they have the same consciousness. And whether or not they're sharing the same consciousness, whether they're the same person just in different places, neither of them should be particularly inclined to make jokes. That's just kind of not what they're for. So it's awkward that we have these 2 characters fulfilling that comedy relief role. It makes it seem like they're not the actual characters. And I don't know if the dialogue is losing its weight in general as we get farther into the series or not. I don't know if it's the art just failing to reproduce the emotion of the moments that the script is giving the artist. But anyway, the effect is that I am not immersed in the moments in this issue. By issue 5, Captain America is not one of my favorite comics anymore, and it's kind of like we're back to the low that Captain America has been in for a while, which is really disappointing because the first 3 issues were so good. Ugh. And then this last page that we get in issue 5 is just not doing it for me. We've got what should be this inspiring moment where we have Captain America in the present and Steve Rogers in the past on the way to their respective showdowns with the villains that they had been facing, and it lines them up for us so we can see both of them like, all right, this is it. Let's go do this. But man, that art just does not sell it for me. That is a couple of dopey poses. Talk about not popping off the page. Man. And listen, I know that my standards for Captain America are really high. He's had some incredibly inspiring moments in comics, such as this page from an issue of Spider-Man written during Civil War, which was also written by J. Michael Straczynski. And I just want to read Captain America that is that inspiring again. And I thought this series would be that, but it isn't. So I was pretty disappointed with issues 4 and 5, 5 in particular because it was just awkward comedy relief, poorly done flashback sequences, and a really lame lead up to the conflict of next issue. So I'm going to give issue 5 of Captain America a 6 out of 10. I just know that it could be so much better. Maybe in the second arc it'll get better again. I don't know. I'm gonna keep buying it, even though it's $5 an issue now. Marvel is slowly cranking up the prices on their comics. That's great, but hopefully it all ends up being worth it. I don't know. Did you read it? What do you think?